Have you ever left a music lesson feeling crushed, not just corrected? Have you ever practiced until your fingers are so painful, and not out of joy but out of fear? Can you still hear a teacher's voice in your head years later? And it doesn't feel like love. I'm Kalina Yankova, and this is Rising Strings Academy. Today I want to talk about something that lingers in the shadows of our rehearsal rooms, our conservatories, and our practice journals. Trauma in music education, it's not a kind of one that leaves bruises on your body, but it's this kind that burrows deep into your identity, that reshapes the way you see yourself and your instrument. Let's clear something up from the start. Trauma is not just what happens to you, it's what happens inside of you as a result of what happens to you. Dr. Mitch Abrams, an expert in sport and performance psychology, says this: trauma is a situation, real or perceived, that causes psychological danger and changes the way you function. So that terrifying jury performance at age of 12, that teacher who humiliated you in front of the whole class, that conservatory rejection letter you never told anyone, if this affects how you show up to the instrument, you are not traumatic, you are just human. Why is trauma so common in the music world? Here is the truth. We start very young. We are taught to obey, and we are told that perfection is the goal, and we are never allowed to reach it. Imagine you are 6 years old, sitting at the piano, your fingers miss a note, your teacher sighs, rolls their eyes, and you feel shame. Not about the mistake, but about yourself. That's the difference. Healthy correction says, let's try again. But trauma says, you're the mistake. Psychologists divide trauma into 2 types. Type 1 is a single shocking event, a public memory slip, for example, a cruel moment from a conductor, an audition gone wrong. Type 2 is repeated trauma over time, chronic shaming, emotional manipulation, constant comparison. Type 1 may give you nightmares, but type 2 may quietly erode your self-worth until you don't even notice what is missing. You may be wondering, is that me? Here are some signals to look for. Feeling intense shame after lesson or performance, avoiding practice because it feels like punishment, hearing a teacher's voice in your head when you mess up years later, over-apologizing, people-pleasing, freezing during feedback, sudden changes in mood, weight or motivation after a bad performance. Sometimes trauma doesn't scream, it whispers. In the way you tense your shoulders, in the way you shrink when somebody criticizes you. So how do we begin to heal? We begin with a narrative. Abrams describes trauma recovery like this. We go from scars to scars, from something that still bleeds to something that just reminds. To do that, we need to tell the story, the full story. But the trauma interrupts the narrative. Someone with traumatic memory may remember the sound of the shoes squeaking on the conservatory floor, but not what happened after the teacher yelled. And healing begins when we reclaim the ending, when we remind the brain, yes, that happened, but I'm still here, I'm not there anymore. Let's talk about power, because power in the hands of teacher can heal or destroy. In high discipline environments like music, Obedience is often seen as a virtue, but when obedience becomes unquestioned, we invite abuse of power. Maybe your teacher didn't mean to be cruel, maybe they were just old school. But intention doesn't cancel impact. Hard coaching becomes abuse when it attacks the student's character instead of their technique. For example, you missed the rhythm. You clearly don't care about this. It's emotional assault. Now, resilience is a buzzword these days, but let's be clear, being sensitive doesn't make you weak. Being fragile does. Sensitivity is the ability to feel. Fragility is inability to recover. We don't help musicians by telling them to toughen up. We help them by teaching emotional regulation, cognitive clarity, and self-trust. A musician with unresolved trauma may look like this: a lazy student who avoids the instrument, a star pupil who over-practice until they collapse, a robotic performer who shut down emotionally, or a student who constantly seeks approval and fears abandonment. Sometimes what looks like discipline is actually fear. Sometimes when it looks like not trying is a survival response. Start journaling your thoughts after lesson or performances. Ask yourself, am I afraid of feedback or of being shamed? Remember, mistakes are not moral failures, they are information. If you're a teacher, watch for abrupt behavioral changes. Give praise that's specific, not vague or patronizing. Say things like, you are not your mistakes. Say them often. If you're a parent, ask your child how they feel after lessons, not just how they played. Be careful not to over-identify with their success or failure. Give unconditional support. Home should never feel like another audition. Music is supposed to be a source of joy, of challenges, yes, but not fear. If you've been hurt in your musical journey, know this: you're not broken, you're not weak, and your pain does not define your artistry. It may have shaped your story, but you get to write the next movement. If this video resonates with you, share it with a student, with a teacher, or a parent, anyone who loves music. Let's raise the standard for what musical excellence should mean. Let's make room for compassion, humanity, and healing. Because music shouldn't hurt, it should make us whole. Subscribe to Rising Strings Academy for more deep dive conversations on music, growth, and artistry. Leave a comment below. What's a musical movement you are still carrying with you? Let's talk about it. Take care of your inner musician, and I will see you in my next video.